Hare Krishna. So it is my greatest pleasure and privilege to be here on the occasion of the Brahmotsavam celebrations of Shri Shri Radha Gopinath Ji, my worshipable Ishtadev. I joined ISKCON Chowpatty in 1993, and as today's theme describes, Srishti, Sthiti, Pralaya. So I'll begin with Pralaya, because that was one thing which Radha Gopinath Prabhu could not touch upon fully, because he has been very much Sthiti person. Pralaya basically, in my experience, has been continuous changing and the destruction of multiple identities from the time I joined the ashram. Because when I joined, my identity was I am a congregational preacher, which I did for 1 year. Then I got scared. Then I retired. So 95 to 96, only 1 year I did congregational preaching and took early retirement. It was voluntary retirement, because I realized if I continue, there will be forced retirement. So congregational preaching requires patience like Radha Gopinath Prabhu, and Srishti requires impatience like me. So it is to Radhanath Swami Maharaj's expertise that he has engaged different devotees appropriately. And therefore, multiple times those changes have happened. And in the 12th canto Srimad Bhagavatam, 4 types of pralaya are described. One is Naimittika pralaya, and the 4th one is the destruction of the false ego. So that is the ultimate pralaya which all of us are aspiring for. And no better guide we have than Srila Prabhupada and His Holiness Radhanath Maharaj and all the wonderful disciples of Srila Prabhupada who have demonstrated through their example how the mission is everything. And the method may go on changing, but we should remain focused on the mission and be willing to sacrifice so many accepted identities with respect to specific services we may have taken anytime. So that for me is the experience of pralaya. And believe me, when the pralaya happens, it is painful, but there is no way to have a new Srishti unless you are willing to go through that pain. So therefore, under the shelter of His Holiness Radhanath Swami Maharaj, what I have learned most is how to negotiate the critical bends around the pralaya, so that unless you successfully negotiate that pralaya with Trinadapi Sunichena Tarorapi Sahishnuna, you cannot be empowered for the next Srishti. And therefore, my 33 years has been a continuous experience of Srishti, Pralaya, Pralaya, Srishti, Srishti, Pralaya. And I have left Sthiti to Radha Gopinath Prabhu. So let us try to understand that the Srishti, which was initiated by Radhanath Swami Maharaj way back in 1995-96 for the first time, when he first took over this temple officially. And everyone thought it will be for a year or 2 or whatever, but it continued. And then again, second series started in 2000 plus. So that Srishti also resulted in pralaya of the faith of some community members about what's going on. This place is always getting into construction. And further, everyone thought by the end of 2007, when all the Srishti here was over, they thought, okay, now peace. And the whole idea which Radhanath Maharaj had always shared with us is, family is growing, we need a beautiful house. The house is not beautiful, not comfortable. We need everybody to come and stay. And therefore, let us build a beautiful house, and then we will live happily ever after. And then once the house was built, then suddenly he shifted his attention to Palghar. And then he said, let's build another house there. So therefore, the Srishti continued. And the only credit we can take is in that this 33 years of journey of going through the Srishti and Pralay, I can say that what will save a sadhaka, and especially if you have intelligence, if you have critical thinking, you are creative, you are independently thoughtful. So practically 90% of the time I have disagreed. But because of the teachings of Srila Prabhupada, especially his purports from the Srimad Bhagavatam, and the personal association and example of Radhanath Maharaj and the mentorship and the love and the care which he has shared and demonstrated, although 90% of the time I have disagreed, I have tried not to disobey. So Maharaj always says this, you may disagree, but do not disobey. And if you continue in that spirit, you continue to be empowered more and more. And that's the summary of my story of 33 years. Because so many of our congregation members, seeing from a distance, who are not involved in the actual decision making behind the Srishti, many times get bewildered, disturbed, disagree, but they may not have the opportunity to express that disagreement in front of Maharaj or whatever. But I have always had the opportunity to express, and I have expressed. And I have expressed very strongly disagreements on why this is required, why it should be needed, we don't need this and that. But every time I have been very, very properly and convincingly given the logical reasons why this needs to be done. Not for my sake, for your sake, but for the sake of the Guru Parampara. And therefore, the only lacune has been that logic and that reason which springs within the heart of Maharaj. He never expressed or took the opportunity of expressing that logic and reason in an open platform where people could hear that. And I would always tell him that if only you could speak what you're telling me in private on the microphone when thousands of people are sitting, it will protect the pralay of many people's faith. He will say, I will speak one day when the whole construction is complete. And for your kind information, it is not yet complete. So the day when you will hear the detailed explanation, I don't know when it will come, but I will take the opportunity to share a few things because I have been given this floor. In the Madhya Lila, Chaitanya Charitamrita, Srila Jiva Goswami, following in the footsteps of the other Goswamis, was the only person who translated the vision of Sriman Mahaprabhu and the other Goswamis who were primarily invested in producing literatures into actual Srishti of creation of Vrindavan, creating the temples. Because Lord Chaitanya gave instruction to Sanatan Goswami, Krishna Bhakti Krishna Prema Seva Pravartan Lupta Tirtha Uddhara Ar Vairagya Shikshan. So amongst the instructions given to Srila Sanatan Goswami by Lord Chaitanya, this was a very important instruction. Krishna Bhakti Krishna Prema Seva Pravartan. So where is the Shastric basis for Srishti within our Sampradaya? Sriman Mahaprabhu is directly instructing Sanatan Goswami, I am engaged in Harinama Sankirtan here in Gambhira, in Jagannath Puri. But I want you to go to Vrindavan and create temples. And he defines temples as Krishna Prema Seva Pravartan. those spaces, those facilities where when a sadhaka engages in seva, Krishna prema will manifest. It's like the juicer for a sugar cane. You put sugar cane on one side, then juice comes out on the other side. So the temple is supposed to be that place designed and organized and orchestrated in a manner with services centered around the pleasure of their lordships Sri Sri Radha Gopinath Ji, that whoever comes and engages and connects with this, gradually the Krishna prema within comes out. So that is called Krishna prema seva pravartan. So there is a deep science behind this. And when Jiva Goswami Pad took this instruction from Srila Sanatan Goswami, then he encouraged Man Singh, who was the general of Akbar, to create the Radha Govind temple in Vrindavan, which was a masterpiece of, and it cost almost 500 crores in those days. Vrindavane kalpadruma suvarna sadan taha yoga pita taha ratna simhasan. So that beauty of the Govinda Dev temple is described, that on a beautiful pedestal Sri Sri Radha Govinda Dev is sitting in a beautiful ornate temple. And in that temple, what is the speciality? That beautiful temple has the deities of Radha Govinda Dev. And so he says that Govinda Dev is Sakshat Madan, is Cupid personified, who is sitting there and accepting seva. And who's offering the seva? Sahasra sevaka seva kore anukshan sahasra vadane seva nayaya varnan. So this is the period between 1590 to 1670, that period of almost 80 years, where the seva, puja of Radha Govinda Dev temple was at its peak. Thousands and thousands of people were coming and offering seva. Like today, thousands and thousands are coming. The temple is flooded, over flooded. There is absolutely no space. It's flourishing. So the seva, puja of Radha Govinda Dev temple in Vrindavan was flourishing like never before, no one had ever seen. And then the description is given. The prime reason for that is there was the prime sevak who was leading that seva. Sevara Adhyaksha Sri Pandit Haridas Taha Guna Sarva Jagate Prakash. His name was Sri Pandit Haridas, who was a disciple of Srila Rupa Goswami. He was the main mahant of the temple, and his leadership resulted in this amazing seva. And then Chaitanya Charitamrita, Kaviraj Goswami himself is describing the qualities of this Pandit Haridas. Sushila Sahishnu Shanta Vadanya Gambhir Madhura Vachana Madhura Cheshta Mahadir Sabar Samman Karta Koren Sabar Het Kautilya Matsarya Hinsa Na Jane Tarachit. He had all the divine qualities. Sushila, Sahishnu, Shanta, Vadanya, Gambhir, Madhur Vachan, Madhur Cheshta, Mahadhir, Sabara Samman Karta, always respectful to others. Koren Sabarhit, always doing good for others. Kautilya, fault finding. Matsarya, envy. Hinsa, the tendency to drag others down, was not there in his heart. And the most important quality he had was Vaishnavera gunagrahi na dekhai dosh koi mane vakya kore Vaishnava santosh. And his biggest quality was he could see the good quality of the devotees and empower them. He would only see the good qualities and overlook the faults. So when we look back into our own history here, Srila Prabhupada established International Society for Krishna Consciousness on the basis of his devotional qualities, on the basis of his tolerance, on the basis of his compassion. And Srila Prabhupada is giving a lecture in 26 Second Avenue, and so many hippies are sitting in front. Many of them are high on drugs. And the most popular drugs those days was called LSD. And Prabhupada is giving lecture on 15th chapter Bhagavad Gita, na tad bhashayate suryo, na shashanko na pavaka. How much compassion you need to speak to such an audience. I am speaking here fully convinced that the audience is enthusiastic, sober, eager to hear. So there is a automatic reciprocation. But if may imagine there is an audience which is half drunk, half high on drugs, and still Prabhupada is, if you see the recordings, there is no mention of Prabhupada ever asking, hey, why did you come, high on drugs? Or why did you drink and come, this or that? No, he's just giving lecture. 1965 lecture, you hear 66 lecture, all of those lectures. And then after his lecture, one hippie raised his hand and said, Swamiji, you spoke about LSD. You spoke about Vaikuntha. Vaikuntha, Vaikuntha, Vaikuntha. What is this Vaikuntha? So Prabhupada was looking at him and thinking, how will he understand Vaikuntha? How can I explain to him Vaikuntha? And Prabhupada could have said, hey, pehle utar ja. Nasha utarega tab samjhega. He's asking what is Vaikuntha, and Prabhupada is thinking how can I connect to him the concept of Vaikuntha. Prabhupada looked at him and compassionately said, Vaikuntha, it is like an ocean of LSD. And the hippie immediately said, I want to go there. Prabhupada said, keep coming regularly. So Srila Prabhupada was confident that through regular satsang, transformation of character will happen. So Srila Prabhupada engaged devotees in serving various kinds of things like Harinam Sankirtan, book distribution, and he did not spend much energy building new temples in the West. He just acquired existing churches and things like that. But when he came to India, Srila Prabhupada wanted to build temples. So the Bombay temple, Vrindavan temple, Mayapur temple were initiated by him right from purchasing of land. So Srila Prabhupada just lands in Delhi and is picked up by Shyam Sundar Prabhu and Gurudas Prabhu, and they are driving towards Vrindavan. This is the first time they are traveling with Prabhupada towards Vrindavan. And they are all excited, sitting behind. Prabhupada is in front next to the driver. And they are all behind. And they are all wanting to hear what will be Prabhupada's first few words. Because we are entering Vrindavan. Which Leela will he reveal? Which Bhav? Which Rasa? Right? Nowadays there is a lot of discussion on Raganuga. So they were thinking, okay, will Prabhupada now share something higher? And then Prabhupada was continuously chanting all the way. And they were eagerly waiting, and the car entered the Chattikara road towards the last part of the journey. And they were feeling disappointed. Such a long journey, Prabhupada has not said anything. Finally, Srila Prabhupada suddenly turned around, looked outside the window, and saw something and turned back. And the devotees who were sitting behind jumped in front to hear the nectar. The Leela is coming. Prabhupada is going to reveal. And Prabhupada immediately again turned his eyes towards outside, pointed something, and they were all seeing groves and forests, and those days there was hardly any construction in Chattikara road. So they were thinking, which Leela is he revealing? And Prabhupada turned back and they said, yes, Srila Prabhupada, what do you want to say? And Prabhupada said one word, cement. And they were bewildered. Where is this in the 10th canto? And Prabhupada said, now that we are coming to Vrindavan, we have to set up an international temple and guest house for all our devotees from all over the world to come and serve here. And if we want to build that temple, when we get land, one of the most crucial things is to get the cement to start the construction. And there is a lot of limitation, and there was the license Raj going on. So therefore, Prabhupada was planning for that. So therefore, Srila Prabhupada himself led the entire process of Srishti in Bombay, in Vrindavan, and in Mayapur. And again, if you notice very closely, if you read Giriraj Maharaj's book for Bombay, and if you hear devotees' accounts in Vrindavan, in the process of Srila Prabhupada engaging full steam into Srishti, there was pralay of few devotees' emotions and faith in that process, because they could not process what was going on. They could not see the vision of what the Acharya is doing and for whom, because all of us have a tendency to look at things from how it is affecting my comfort zone. Whereas the great souls are not thinking in terms of themselves, but they are thinking in terms of how to assist the divine couple in their pastimes and create beautiful abodes for them. And therefore, similarly, following in that footsteps, right? Srila Prabhupada established temples in many places, established deity worship. And in one temple in New Zealand, there was so little space. There was only space for Gaur Nitai on the altar. But the devotees were enthusiastic to install Jagannath, Baldev, Subhadra also. So they were so creative, they made a revolving altar where you press a button and the altar would move. So they placed Gaur Nitai in front, Jagannath, Baldev, Subhadra back to back. When Prabhupada came, he offered obeisances to Gaur Nitai. When he got up, he saw Jagannath, Baldev, Subhadra. And Prabhupada saw this and he said, what is this? This is deities, not rolling stone. So Srila Prabhupada gave creativity to the devotees to fulfill his vision and empowered the devotees to open new temples, open new projects, but was also very sensitive to try to train them of what is acceptable within the norms. When you come here to Chowpatty temple, His Holiness Radhanath Maharaj came here way back in 1986-87. And the story of this is connected to another Srishti which happened in New Vrindavan. And Srila Prabhupada wanted to make 7 temples, 12 forests in New Vrindavan in 1972. And the devotees said, we have never been to Vrindavan. How will make this? Prabhupada said, you make a house for me, I'll come stay there and guide you how to make. So they started building a house for Srila Prabhupada that was initially very simple design, went on becoming more and more ornate. By the time it opened, it was 1979, and Srila Prabhupada departed by them. But when this house for Srila Prabhupada opened, it was the most beautiful Srishti ISKCON had ever seen since 1966, built from scratch in the Western world. And therefore, the Western media, so the devotees called it Prabhupada's Palace of Gold. And American media advertised it as Taj Mahal of the West. The Taj Mahal of the West. Because that was their conception of the highest in the East. So they took it Taj Mahal of the West. And then it was 1981, one very prominent Hindu leader came and saw that Palace of Gold of Srila Prabhupada and said, our spiritual organization should also do these similar things. And that was Pramukh Swami Maharaj from Swaminarayan. And from 1982 onwards, all those temples started getting built. And the crowd also started growing. Thousands started coming to see that beautiful creation. But then the devotees started telling we should have the original idea of the 12 forests and 7 temples which Prabhupada wanted. That is why the house was built, so that Prabhupada could stay there. House is ready. Where is the 12 forests and the 7 temples? And that is when, at that moment, the negative impact of Srishti, as described in his prayers by Brahmaji, was experienced. Brahmaji in his prayers explains that, my dear Lord, you have given me the task of Srishti, creation. But the biggest downside, the biggest challenge of those engaged in Srishti or creation is they have to closely interact with Rajogun, mode of passion. So he said, in the process of doing that, may I not become contaminated by that Rajogun, karma shamalam, and become proud that I created this. This is my creation. So therefore, there are occupational hazards everywhere, but especially in creation, this is the big challenge, that one may start thinking, I created this. And therefore something like that happened, where the leadership there was again and again reminded, you have to do this. But they felt Srila Prabhupada's vision was 7 temples, 12 forests. But we have built Prabhupada's palace of gold to see this. Thousands of more people are coming. Our vision is better than Prabhupada's. And that was the beginning of the challenges in the community. And His Holiness Radhanath Maharaj, under various circumstances, came here to Chowpatty in 1988 in a very simple, if you go to Parth Seva office, the half of Parth Seva office, the backside is where he actually began staying. That was the only space available. Everything else was occupied by others. Srinathji Prabhu was kind enough, along with Krishna Chandra Prabhu's father and others, to bring Maharaj here. And that's where, the whole story began. And many times Maharaj has taken me to that in the past and said, we must make a museum there. Now Parth Seva is very happy thinking we have a stable office. Let me warn you. That thought is there in the mind in some corner. Which day it will manifest, we cannot say. So be detached from that space. We must make a museum, Maharaj said, where we have to explain the whole story of how we started here from this space. Like that. So therefore the facilities were very limited. Challenges were there. Lot of difficulties the devotees were going through. On this side, Gaurnitai Hall, all of our illustrious Bhaktivedanta Hospital doctors were staying here. Right from behind me, behind every panel you see, was the residence of one of the Bhaktivedanta Hospital founding doctors. And that's how they began, because for many years they did their practice without any bank balance, sacrificing everything for the mission. We must recognize that. And how I found out first was, when I was practically the only IYS boy in those days, because youth preaching was hardly started. So Bhakti Rasamrit Maharaj would come. And so he just began the IIT preaching, and I was like the first, Bakra. First person who got connected, also helping in preaching and everything. So Bhakti Rasamrit Maharaj had told all the devotees, hey, new guy from IIT, good potential. Thoda khayal rakhna. So khayal rakhna means Mahaprasad. So when I would come here, Dwarkadish Prabhu and his wife, in the evening they would call me on the other side and give me prasad. And so I would say, I don't see this being served below. I said, no, this is Mahaprasad. So that is how I got introduced to Mahaprasad. That is something special. So, all of these, whole place was like totally engaged. The below, what you see, Bhaktivedanta Hall at Tinkerbell School, behind the Krishna photos here, Gopalji Hall, used to be Bhola's classes, right? And Lakshmi Narayan Hall, that side used to be Camel Socks. DT Kitchen also was Bhola classes, examination room. Below also was Bhola's classes. Govinda's was Ghazi's classes. So we had so many classes, we could have got inspired to join the classes only. And practically the entire front area of the courtyard would be filled with young boys and girls all day, chit-chatting and doing prajalpa, because they were all connected to one of these classes or the school. And the Tinkerbell school, mysteriously had a ground floor and a first floor also, both. Ground and first both, within the Bhaktivedanta hall. And in that scenario, when I joined thinking that this is how this temple will look like for the rest of eternity. And I never thought the look and feel of this temple will ever change. And honestly speaking, none of us really cared about it too much, because we were just blissful in the association of His Holiness Radhanath Maharaj. So if I had joined in 1993, and if a personality like Maharaj was not there, and that infrastructure was there, then I do not know whether I would have joined or I would have survived. So you either need intense inspiration or you need impeccable infrastructure. If you have both, nothing like it. But if you don't have impeccable infrastructure, but you have intense inspiration, then you are kind of blinded. You are in an intoxicated state and you don't mind whatever state you may be in. So that is the kind of situation we joined in. And for years together, that is how, when my parents came, they were bewildered. Where is your room? I said, room? We are in the corridor. That corridor in which you stand in line, that was the corridor which had all the lockers. And behind was the toilets, and Maharaj's toilet was the last. So practically speaking, that was the infrastructure in which we were staying. Every locker was like our room. And at night, temple hall was the bedroom. And my space was next to Srila Prabhupada, next to the books, because I always thought, some waves from the books will come inside. And the fan was also there, so I would sleep there and press Bajrang Bali Hanuman. Because initial days I used to be very scared going out for preaching. Big bad Bombay city. And I was only 22 years old and going in the bus to some strange locations and coming late at night. So I used to intensely pray to Hanumanji to give me blessings, to give me the strength, because I was feeling fearful to go out. And so that was like a space I found security. And we did not have any guest rooms. So one day Sridhar Maharaj came, Prabhupada's disciple Sridhar Maharaj. And he was, the only space was Maharaj's room. So Maharaj gave him space in the room. But because he was snoring, so Maharaj could not stay in the room. So he came and Maharaj slept in my space at night. And I came back late from a program. I was thinking, identity. You can get even attached to the space under the fan. So I was thinking, Meri jagah pe kaun soya hai? So I said, kaun hai? And the answer came, Radhanath Swami. And I got totally bewildered. And I immediately went and slept in another place. And the next day Maharaj came and said, I'm sorry, maybe I slept at you. I said, no, Maharaj, what are you saying? If I knew it was you, I would have massaged you. Rather than asking, who is it? So that was the situation, we would bring our beddings at night. So, 8:50 hour, that Shayan Darshan, that's also unique. So Radhanath Maharaj, all these unique things. No temple has this 8:50 to 9:05 Shayan Darshan, like that. So that darshan was, very special. And I would be so tired working in the kitchen, I would come with my sleeping kit and wait for the darshan to close and the people to walk out. And when the darshan would close, I would offer obeisances, and some days in that obeisances position I slept because of being tired. So therefore, when you are fully satisfied serving, hearing, chanting, you don't really need infrastructure. So honestly speaking, again 1997-98, Bhakti Tirth Maharaj came. We had never seen a personality like him. Mangal Arti, he started leading. And from Sri Radhika Madhava Yorapara, he started dancing. And dancing not just one place, from here to Prabhupada and Prabhupada to here. I said, "Bole, kya ye aag ka gola hai?" The same Maha Mantra, but how it is, affecting different people. So these were all, you cannot replicate this. I used to give Wednesday lectures, which was like very shant, quiet. Only most people who used to come, they like the intellectual type and they didn't like the dancing kirtan and all. So they would come for Wednesday, they would avoid Sunday. Because Sunday they felt was too, wild. Kirtans and this and that. So they came for that. So it was a different crowd. So that Wednesday, Bhakti Tirth Maharaj was there. So I requested Maharaj, our Maharaj, can he give the evening? I said, of course, ask him. So I asked him, he agreed. So 7 o'clock, Gaur Arati, he started leading Bhakti Tirth Maharaj. Jumping from here to there to here. And he used to have his, some kind of a damru and all that. And all the Shantaras fellows who had come to hear, they got the shock of their lives. And they started checking the calendar whether it is Wednesday or not. Have they come on some other day? And that whole experience was centered around seeing the example of Radhanath Swami Maharaj giving lectures for 6 hours, 7 hours, Katha, Kirtan, Gaur Arati, 12:30 starting, going up to 1:30. He'll get fully drenched. Then he'll go to his room, take a shower, come back with fresh clothes, lecture, then again 1 hour Kirtan. So Katha Kirtan was going on all the way from the time I joined 93 to 2001. So I thought, और क्या चाहिए life में? चलता ही रहेगा. And because the focus was on preaching, and I had requested for a small loft, so above this, where Gaurnitai is next to Gaurnitai on top, there is a small loft where I would sit and study the Bhagavatam for 4 hours, 5 hours, 6 hours, 8 hours. So important thing is, when there is not much money, you can't do any srishti. You can do a lot of study. So one thing I realized, Saraswati and Lakshmi don't go together. To be blessed by Saraswati, you need to keep Lakshmi at a distance. Because the moment Lakshmi comes in, Saraswati's peace is affected. So therefore, till 2001, this temple was like completely filled with the ecstasy of hearing and chanting and the community of devotees. And my parents came and they were very worried. Kaise jagah pe reh raha hai bhai? What is he? Why is he? And then I thought better to introduce them to Maharaj only. Then they'll kind of stabilize. So my father met Maharaj for the first time. And then, Maharaj asked my father, okay, what do you do? What do you used to do? He said, I used to serve the steel plant for 40 years. Maharaj said, now serve Tulsi plant. Then my father said that, Maharaj, we have given our son education in IIT, this and that. But now what you are giving him through the spiritual education is like icing on the cake. Maharaj immediately said, but you have baked the cake. And he didn't understand. He said, thank you. And then what inspired him was seeing Maharaj and hearing his lectures and seeing his humble demeanor. And he immediately caught that. So although things were quite infrastructure-wise not at all very attractive, not confidence building, but he got that confidence by seeing the example of Maharaj. And then the problem happened that he started catching Maharaj's lectures and philosophy and started using it on me. So my father one day said something, I had an argument, he said, "You are not humble like Radhanath Swami." He just said, "Be humble like blade of grass. You have spent so many years. When will you get that?" I said, "Arey galti kiya mila ke bhai." So, in that scenario, when Maharaj decided that now we have to move to the next level, and that's where things started changing. So Radha Girdhari Prabhu was running Apar Infotech with Srinathji Prabhu and Keshav Prabhu, and in 2001, 2003, in that period, His Holiness Radhanath Maharaj really requested Radha Girdhari Prabhu that it will be nice if there is some Lakshmi we get so that we can renovate this place. No Lakshmi, no construction. That is the first principle. No Lakshmi, prachar possible. No Lakshmi, kirtan possible. No Lakshmi, khichdi is at least possible. But construction, not possible. So Radha Girdhari Prabhu had so many ideas to build the company to the next level, next level, next level. So in Pittsburgh, he invited Maharaj to his company. 1997, he started Apar 98. And within 1 year of the company started, it was really going down. It was incurring major losses. So when Maharaj came to his office, Radha Girdhari Prabhu asked him to sit in his, seat in Pittsburgh, in his office, in Apar Infotech office. So when Maharaj sat there, they had a chat. Then Maharaj asked, "How is the company doing?" He says, "Maharaj, not doing well, unfortunately." Maharaj said, "Okay." He said, "Please pray." He said, "Okay, I will pray." And he left. And then within a week, the company started improving. And by 2001, the company was at such a position that even Radha Girdhari Prabhu himself did not expect that. So that is the time when Maharaj requested him, if we can exit, it will be good. But he said, "But if we continue, then we go to this level and this level and this level." Maharaj said, "I am already 51. At 51, I have engaged in chanting, hearing, speaking, taking yatras. Everything which can be humanly possible has been done. But now, if we want to offer to Radha Gopinath Ji the same old dilapidated building for the rest of the life, I have a desire to offer to Srila Prabhupada and Radha Gopinath Ji a beautiful house, a temple which they will be comfortable and they will be pleased with. And we do not want to disturb the congregation by doing a public fundraising, because our congregation is all about hearing, chanting, dancing, and all that." So, all of you must have heard of sannyas, when you have to renounce. But the biggest renunciation is renunciation of your plans, renunciation of your ideas, of what you feel will be best. That is the most difficult thing. So that time, Radha Girdhari Prabhu had no desire to exit that company. But because Maharaj was so inspired to build this entire temple in a way which will be pleasing to their Lordship Sri Radha Gopinath Ji, he surrendered. And then he said to Maharaj that, "I have offices in so many countries and so many things going on. After I exit, I will not be able to run another IT company. I can only maybe manage a fund and things like that. So Radha Girdhari Prabhu, Sachidanand Prabhu, Keshav Prabhu, Srinathji Prabhu, Krishna Chandra Prabhu, all of them took a decision. And then there was some company in Israel which was interested. And when Radha Girdhari Prabhu was negotiating with that company, that owner of the company asked, "Why are you valuing this company so high? What is so special?" And Radha Girdhari Prabhu said, "Because this company is comprised of the mercy and blessings of my Guru." And that, owner of that company who was interested to buy the company was totally bewildered. He was a Jewish person and he had never heard anything like this. He said, "I want to meet your Guru." So he said, "Come." So he took a flight from Tel Aviv, landed in Mumbai, and came after a Sunday feast and met Maharaj in his room. And Maharaj, being from Jewish background, spoke so many stories from the Jewish tradition. That person never felt he's in a Hare Krishna temple. And he felt that as if I'm going to give this, if I buy this company, maybe this Jewish person will be helped. So with that inspiration, he agreed. And then finally that entire transaction happened. And therefore, all of those, there are a lot of congregation devotees who were part of Apar Infotech in those days. So we should not forget to thank them for their part in whatever software and technology they may have created was very much an integral part of the Srishti here, because these things have never been advertised and even they may not recognize. And I always tell Radha Girdhari Prabhu that आपके exit ने मेरा जीवन बदल दिया. And because of that exit, then Maharaj had the Lakshmi and His Grace Radha Krishna Prabhu and Radha Sharan Prabhu and many others started the process, and Maharaj very systematically had the idea of how to create this as a beautiful cultural center. So far, yes, we have reached out to people from across Mumbai, but we have not yet touched those people who are still in South Bombay, and so many international guests, and especially the Western tourists who are traveling in India searching for God. So it was a very large vision which he had. And with that vision, with the cooperation and the support of people like, businessmen who were willing to give their Lakshmi, then this entire construction process could actually begin. Because without that background, what you will see is only what has been finally done. So therefore, that I strongly believe was a turning point. And then once Maharaj began that process of construction, changing things gradually, and first various tenants who were there were being bought out one by one, and gradually things started evolving. So Maharaj personally was invested in each and every detail of how this temple would look like and how the design would look like, how the woodwork will look like, what kind of marble should be got. And multiple times things were changed and rechanged. And that process between 2001 to 2007, I must admit, was extremely painful for those who were staying here, because it was our residence also, and at the same time it was a prolonged renovation and construction happening. And unless you were totally invested that we are doing this to build a house for Radha Gopinath, it was quite easy to get frustrated and bewildered with so much of sound and dust and noise and pollution and everything, because there is only 1 acre. You cannot hide anywhere. Once the dust flies, it flies. Once the noise comes, no earplug can protect you. So therefore, that whole process was initial. In fact, in those days, we had no security, no nothing. Anybody could walk in any time of the day, any time of the night, So one time, one guy just walked in and started taking Prabhupada's DT away. So finally, we caught hold of him, and then Maharaj told me, you put a chain around Prabhupada's DT. So we put Prabhupada DT under lock. Chain around his waist and lock. It was like Damodar Leela. So then, one by one, the security department started. Maharaj said, go and find out, since we are renovating the temple, we need security. So I went to Grant Road, and there was a Globe Detective Agency and some other agency, and we got somebody who was a security guard. And that guy was supposed to be on night shift, but exactly at 11:30 at night will go to sleep on his gun. Because initially it was only stick. Maharaj said, no, we should have, armed guard. So we got the armed guard, and one day, one of the devotees took the gun when he was sleeping. And next day he was frantic, he was searching. And we said, we are not giving you. And he said, I lose my job. I said, well, you're on duty, how could you sleep? So gradually things were added because it was required to protect this temple, and today we have like a very, very elaborate security department, infrastructure which none of us could have imagined so many years back. But it was all centered around pleasing Radha Gopinath Ji. Pleasing Radha Gopinath Ji was the main focus. This was being built for them. So if you look at the ceiling here, that ceiling with the blue and the green, this took almost 2 weeks to finalize. And who was there? Matsyavatar Prabhu came all the way from Italy, Prabhupada's disciple, and Maharaj and him were going on working out. Which color? They would do one color, then Maharaj would call, do you like it? So Maharaj has a style where he knows what he likes, but he wants everybody's input. At the same time, if he doesn't agree, he will finally say, no, I don't agree. So many times you feel, am I wasting time sharing my opinion? But no, that's part of the Leela. So you have to understand the Leela and play along in the Leela. So then you'll say this, that. So one person who was very important part of the Srishti Leela is Haridas Thakur Prabhu. In those days. He must be here somewhere today. But all the paintings which you see on both sides was orchestrated by Haridas Thakur Prabhu under direct supervision of His Holiness Radhanath Swami Maharaj for a period of 4 years continuously. And I was given the seva of overseeing that. And Maharaj said, I am putting you to oversee because creative people may take too long and never become satisfied with their artwork. So you make sure that he does within time limits. So after lunch, Maharaj would take a tour and go to the studio wherever he was making and spend at least half an hour giving feedback on each and every aspect of the painting. And because I was kind of overall in charge, so I had to also travel with him. And I would get totally bored, thinking, what discussion is going on? How long? अरे वही तो बना रहे भाई, थोड़ा ऐसा हुआ, उसका क्या फर्क पड़ता है? But Maharaj has such an attention to detail, such an obsession with perfection. It can be irritating. And I would tell him also, Maharaj, I cannot handle this anymore. Just move on. It is looking great. It is better than Picasso. You say, hey, don't be impatient. We are making this as an offering for their lordships, Radha Gopinath, not for you and me. So hold on to your impatience. So therefore, if there is this Kolavech Sridhar, that, where is that? So we have Nityanand Prabhu. Can you stand up? अरे खड़े हो जाओ भाई, राधा गोपीनाथ ने मेरा बहुत खींचा. थोड़ा पूरा 360 डिग्री घूमो. तो you can see him. He is the founder of ISKCON's weight loss program. Keep standing. Now I have the floor. So Haridas Thakur Prabhu was struggling to make Kolavech Sridhar. You know? So then Maharaj thought of the idea. He looked at Nityanand. He said, 500 years ago, Kolavech Sridhar must have looked like you. And he made him stand there in that position. And Thakur Haridas has painted Kolavech Sridhar looking at our divine personality here. Now you can start your Instagram page tomorrow. You'll have immediate followers. You are in news. So, then one day Maharaj goes there and Thakur Haridas is sitting and studying Bhagavad Gita and the studio is closed. Maharaj looks at me and says, why is your artist not working? He would tell, your artist. बातें सब उनकी आपस में होती थी, बाकी बोलने पे your artist. I said, okay, Maharaj, let me ask my artist. He's a moody guy, so I have to ask him carefully. So I asked him, क्या हो गया भाई, तू कर नहीं रहा है, क्या हो गया? अरे तुम लोगों का भगवत गीता का एग्जाम है ना 4 दिन में, गीता के लिए पढ़ाई कर रहे हैं, एग्जाम देना है, ब्रह्मचर्य आश्रम में टेस्ट था. So I told Maharaj, there is a Bhagavad Gita series going on, so there is a test. So our artist is studying for the test. So Maharaj became angry. When he becomes angry, you don't see he's angry, but his voice will go down. Others' voice goes up usually. So here it is opposite. So he comes to Haridas Thakur Prabhu and says, imagine if the cook says, I have Bhagavad Gita exam. If the pujari says, I have Bhagavad Gita exam, can the temple run? He says, no, Maharaj. So Maharaj said, so why do you stop your artwork? Exam or no exam, this must continue. Start. And immediately he kept the Gita aside and started. So in those days, the intensity with which the interaction was happening, anybody who saw that may have felt that he will continue interacting with this guy for rest of eternity. So that is another big illusion nobody should be in. That because you are getting some attention for a specific period of time, you should not think, I am special. No. Maharaj is focused on Radha Gopinathji, Srila Prabhupada, what they want. If this is what they want at this point of time, who is there to assist? You? Okay, please come. That time is over. Okay, who else is there? Next. 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 There is only one word. Next. Who is there to assist? One thing will continue. Seva. So he is like a pujari who is dressing Radha Gopinathji through Srishti. So he said, I am a pujari of New Vrindavan and I would take long time to dress the deities to perfection with the best kind of dressing and flowers and everything. What to do? I am carrying my pujari tendencies into construction. And therefore, till I am fully satisfied with how everything looks, I can never give a go-ahead. So please forgive me for being obsessed with details. But that's how I have served Radha Vrindavan Chandra in New Vrindavan, Radha Vrindavan Nath or Vrindavan Chandra. And that's how I have got this whole idea. So therefore I am always very much looking for attention to details. So then, when this construction, you see this golden colored, this stone, this Maharaj personally went to Italy and Matsyavatara Prabhu took him through miles and miles of Italian marble. And then Maharaj finally chose this because he said later, this is a very close color to Lord Chaitanya's complexion. And then, as I said, 90% of the time we have disagreed. So I said, Maharaj, put the marble only till this painting. बाकी पुताई कर देंगे ऊपर. Indian style. सस्ता सादा टिकाऊ. अरे यहां से वहां तक का मार्बल का खर्चा कहीं और यूज करेंगे. How many of you agree? समझ रहे ना? तो महाराज के साथ काम करते करते मैं भूल गया कि मैं IIT से हूं. उसको साइड में रख दिया. I said, just let us do till here. Why to do all the way? There's no. Every 2-3 years, because of the monsoon, you have to keep repainting. Once you do this, you don't have to look at it forever. So this was done in 2004, 2005, and 20 years passed, no maintenance. So then, रणछोड़ मिस्त्री है कि नहीं? हो गया, मेरा टाइम खत्म हो गया. अभी तो शुरू भी नहीं किया है. I'll just take a few more minutes. So Ranchor Mistri is a very historic name. 1975, New Vrindavan, Kuladri Prabhu found him in Kalba Devi and got the first altar done for New Vrindavan. And Prabhupada liked it. And Prabhupada shared with all the leaders, this is fantastic altar. All ISKCON temples should make like this. Ho gaya. So temple after temple was ordering from Ranchor Mistri. So you must know that Maharaj spent his entire life in New Vrindavan watching the pioneers of Srishti in ISKCON at close quarters. New Vrindavan had their own glass factory, glass etching factory. They had, various kinds of fiber casting units. They were casting paver blocks. They had their own carpentry factory. Whatever you need for construction, everything was done in New Vrindavan, in-house, zero labor cost. All the historic paintings you have seen in Srila Prabhupada's books, Murlidhar Prabhu, Parikshit Prabhu, this and that, they were all doing in New Vrindavan. When those paintings were being done, it was happening in front of Maharaj. So he has seen all of that. But another hallmark of a leader is patience. And one thing about Maharaj, what I have seen is, he is a master of timing. Not 1 second before, not 1 second later. When the time is there, maro hathoda. And then you get bewildered, ye hathoda kahan se hai? This is the right time. So, till 2001, nobody would have imagined what all experiences he has seen firsthand, but 72 to 2002 is 30 years. He has seen what all can be done, what Srishti can be done. He has seen the best in the Srishtikartas. And right in Bombay, Juhu Temple, Prabhupada built beautiful palace of marble, and so many other beautiful temples being built here, there, everywhere. So he was not involved in any kind of comparison or competition or anything. He was very clear. I have my seva to Radha Gopinath ji. Whenever that opportunity comes, I will offer. And when the opportunity came, he entered with an intensity which may have rattled a few. But you should know, as a personality, he is intense only. So he does japa with intensity, kirtan with intensity, katha with intensity, exchanges affection with intensity, srishti also he does with maha intensity. So therefore, the only thing is, he also recognizes there is a lot of mode of passion involved. He doesn't disturb too many people in that. Only few people who are required and who understand, he engages. But he is very clear that this is what we want actually. So therefore, when this particular Ranchor Mistri came, he came with the altar design. He liked it. Maharaj liked the altar and this doors and everything. Then Ranchor on his own brought another proposal for these jharokas. And it was looking so beautiful that Maharaj said, this is irresistible. And then he asked the cost. He quoted a bomb. And that was the time Keshav Prabhu was sitting there. And there was some, some Lakshmi had come through some of the business or something. And then Keshav Prabhu looked at it and he really liked it. And he said, Maharaj, you have a dream. He has the design. I will give the $1. And then that's how this got done. So, the jharokas became like a feature. And, especially the focus on the jharokas goes during Pushyabhishek. Right? And Maharaj said Pushyabhishek has become Pushabhishek. So now things have been improved on that front. And then, the last part I want to share is the dioramas. So you must have seen the dioramas of the acharyas, dioramas of the, it used to be in the corridor somewhere, but now it has been shifted to Eco Village. But those dioramas was also a very important part of the journey, because Maharaj said, when I was alone singing for Radha Vrindavan Nath up in the mountains, the devotees were another place, and it was Kartik month. And for hours together I was doing kirtan, I was meditating. One day I should have a fiber diorama of Yashoda Mai and Krishna, which I can offer. And for years together it was my dream to have one diorama like that. So when he would speak these stories, although my heart was filled with disagreement, thinking that this is going to create more, noise and trouble and this and that, but still you would say, "Arey, chalo yaar, khush karo inko. Ek diorama to chahiye, chalo." So that way, he would express the dreams he had for many, many years. So that is how he started this entire diorama things. And the first was the Ashtasakhi. And there was this karigar called Milan Bagh. Dayal Nitai Prabhu and Raghupati Prabhu had sent in 2001 to Mayapur to meet Jananivas Prabhu to find the good Krishnanagar karigar. So they met Milan because Jananivas Prabhu introduced. And Jananivas Prabhu told, Prabhupada had found Milan in 1973. When Prabhupada called him, Milan was a young boy. He was sitting in front of Prabhupada. And as Prabhupada was talking to Milan in Bengali, Milan took a small clay ball. And in the course of the half-an-hour conversation, he made a beautiful sculpture of Prabhupada's face and gave it to Prabhupada. And Prabhupada said, he is the man who should train our artists of ISKCON. So Milan Bagh was the one who trained Bardharaj Prabhu, and all the Fate Museum, Science of Self-Realization cover, you have seen those dioramas. Those were all made under the direction of Milan Bagh. So Maharaj said, we have to get that karigar who was approved by Prabhupada. So Milan Bagh was at that time in Surat doing something. So we got the Ashtasakhis done in Surat. And again, the main person overseeing all of that was Haridas Thakur Prabhu. And if he was not there, None of these things could have been done with the kind of perfection which you see, because it was a lot of intense labor of love and nobody could understand. And Maharaj would be so picky on each and everything. Like, there is one of the pastimes where this one, what is Madhu Mangal? Krishna with his cowherd boys, I think one of those Leelas. And Thakur Haridas Prabhu made Madhu Mangal a little fat, And Maharaj called me and said, "What do you think? What has your artist done?" I said, "Arey." I said, "Looking good, Maharaj." Maharaj said, "This is Madhu Mangal." I said, "Oh, wow, looks like he has eaten a lot of laddus." Maharaj said, "No, he is looking like a sumo wrestler." This is not Madhu Mangal, the Brajavasi cowherd boyfriend of Krishna. I said, "Oh, okay. Then I tell you, only tell him what to make now." So Maharaj told Thakur Haridas, "You have to erase this. We have to make new, because you cannot do with this Madhu Mangal. But it is already painted, it's a divine associate of Lord, so you cannot say that erase it, मिटाओ इनको, भगवान के नित्य परिकर हैं, इनको मिटाओ, ये बोलना ठीक नहीं." So Maharaj looked at Thakur Haridas and said, "This Madhu Mangal looks like sumo wrestler. You send him to Japan in Tata Sumo." And then you make a new Madhu Mangal as per my direction. Right? So all the dioramas, Maharaj personally spent time, especially on the facial features. And then he said there are two types of beauty. One is the realistic, rugged human beauty, where every vein is seen, every cut is seen, and it looks very realistic. That is one style of diorama. That's okay. But I prefer Milan Bagh style, where the dioramas have smooth features, have a divine, innocent look of the spiritual world. And therefore, we should go ahead with Milan only. And half of Milan's Karigar were from, not from Hindu community. And they were staying continuously here for almost 8 years. 6 to 8 years they stayed. Continuously, without any demand, quietly, no disturbance. Only demand was during World Cup, they wanted TV. So I would organize TV for them. And they would watch the TV match, on the World Cup match, FIFA, and then continue working. Then in between, Maharaj said, we should also make them to do dioramas for Govardhan farm with our Krishna Leela. I said, Govardhan farm? We just got that farm. Why we need in 2005? Any dioramas? Who's there? There's nobody. Only 4 brahmacharis are there. 25 cows are there. And a lot of snakes are there. And wild boars are there. And when the wild boar would roam around, our brahmachari would snore so loudly, the boar will run away. So it was a self-sustaining ecosystem. So why do we need dioramas? So in 2005, Maharaj said, in future, when we develop this Govardhan farm and create the unfulfilled desire of Srila Prabhupada for New Vrindavan, for 7 temples and 12 forests, these dioramas will find their seva in the Vrindavan forest here in Govardhan farm. And Milan Bagh is already 65 years of age. I want his touch on these dioramas. We don't know how long he will live. And with that, if you go to GEB, you will find where the Dhenukas or Gadhawala area is. That is where we built a shed. And these people from Krishnanagar very reluctantly went there and they were protesting. अरे हम बोल के आया है गांव से हम शहर में जा रहा है, वापस गांव में भेज रहा है. I said, अरे थोड़ा एक्स्ट्रा आपको दे देगा यार, बख्शीश ले लो, थोड़ा ये दे दो. So that is how all those dioramas were made. And those dioramas in 2006-7 were ready, and they were inside a go down for 20 years. No, 10 years. 2016, those dioramas were brought out and finally offered seva with all the decoration and painting. Now in GV, when you look at the dioramas, you should remember there was a leader who did not have funds at that time, who did not have any support for that project, who had gone through a lot of challenges with respect to a farm project itself. So the present was filled with uncertainty, but the present uncertainties did not stop the leader from thinking and dreaming about the future. So the leader, like Radhanath Maharaj, always dares to dream about the future, what Srila Prabhupada wants. And that's what makes them such powerful leaders. And as an epilogue, 2011 Kartik Yatra Vrindavan Govardhan lecture was going on. Maharaj was speaking Govardhan Leela, and I got the message, Milan Bagh has departed. So nobody here will know who is Milan Bagh. But if you look out and go into the Acharya Parampara series, the avatars, this, that, and on festival days when those dioramas are brought out, you should know there was someone, somewhere, sometime who was really very, very dear to Radhanath Swami Maharaj, and definitely they would have a great future. Their soul would always have benefited from the grace they have received from great devotees. So, as a concluding remark, all this beautification of the temple was going on, but Maharaj also simultaneously would keep reminding the brahmacharis that the opulence of the temple and the project should not make you compromise your simplicity. So you continue remaining simple. And that was always a recurring feature. And favorite was his pastime of Raghunath Das Goswami to the brahmacharis. So he gave a long lecture of Raghunath Das Goswami, renunciation. And then he spoke about how Raghunath Das Goswami was taking chas in drone, few drops. And then he said, this is the standard of renunciation, renounced, totally austere. And then Maharaj was taking a round, and one brahmachari was sitting with a drone, leaf cup. And Maharaj looked at him and said, oh, leaf cup? Like Raghunath Das Goswami? And then Maharaj looked inside the leaf cup. There was pasta. Maharaj said, oh, modern day Raghunath Das. But in every saffron ceremony, Maharaj would always speak about the 6th chapter Antalila, Raghunath Das Goswami. Yah sarvalaukaik manobhiruchya saubhagyabu kanchita krishtapachya yatrayamaro panatulya kala sa prema sakhi phalavan atulya. Raghunath Das Goswami, he got the blessings of all the devotees in Puri, not because of his austerity, but because of his pleasing demeanor. Because he served with humility. And that blessings transformed his heart. And therefore, through the experience of Srishti, Sthiti, and Pralaya, all I can say is, many times it is difficult to understand the vision of great souls who are tuned in and receiving messages from the parampara. We are not in that WhatsApp group. It is difficult to understand what has been decided when you are not in the email chain or the WhatsApp group. And the problem is, you cannot be added also. We cannot be added also. Because it is by invitation and qualification. So when they receive those messages, then they try to execute those messages. And all of us should feel fortunate to become part of that story of trying to do our little bit with all of our disqualifications and challenges and egos and conditionings to assist that flow and the desire of the parampara. And once we do that, assist in that srishti, assist in that sthiti, by the blessings of Shri Shri Radha Gopinath, the false ego and mithya abhiman will experience the pralay, and we will experience real prema. Thank you very much. Hare Krishna.